Okay, the usual disclaimer on the recording, but I'll just fly through that. Just remember, it's for use for you and not or for your parents. Of course, because of where we're now hosting those videos, you can actually send the link on to your parents and they can watch it if they want to. Can I say there will only be 3 assemblies with me this year? There might be little bits, but 3 major assemblies. It will be this one. There will be one in February about how to respond to your offers after the UCAS deadline. And in that assembly, I'll also be looking at accommodation and what to look for when you're thinking about applying to accommodation. And then sometime in March, there will be an assembly on student finance. Okay, again, all will be recorded. But of course, with the student finance, we have to wait till the government release the latest figures. Normally, they aim to do that on about the 16th of March, and then we have an assembly soon after that as possible. Okay, so we're looking at 2024 entry. As ever, the standard slide, it's all about preparation. Okay, it's all about doing your research. It's all about, if necessary, coming to see me because you're thinking about grade profiles. Hopefully, by the end of today, all of your subject teachers will have put in your predicted grades into the system so that hopefully we can do an export on Tuesday morning, not only of your predicted grades, but also your subject references. Okay? But I'm not quite sure when the predicted grades are going home, but it will be sometime shortly and they'll then be available to you on Bromcom as well. We currently have 159 of you have actually submitted a UCAS application or have started with an application on the system. Now, as you are very aware, we had a little bit of an issue with IT during the summer, and we have lost everything that wasn't in the cloud. Now, I had an ex-student from last year's Year 13 contact me this morning and say, I want to now apply to university. Can you help me? And I turned around and said, well, of course we'll help you. And I said, but did you actually start an application last year? And they went, no. Which means also there is no tutor reference stored on the UCAS system. So therefore I have nothing to go by to actually, as far as the reference is concerned. So the reason why we want you to do that is so that we actually have a cloud-based record of all the information we need. Your tutor then has somewhere to put the reference, and if you decide you want to do something different, or you decide next year suddenly I want to go to university, it's there on the UCAS system and we can pull it from a cloud-based system, not from a server-based system, which went slightly interesting over the summer. So again, remind you about your research. Can I say the UCAS website is being updated daily, although some of the searches will not work from about 4 o'clock tomorrow through to 4 a.m. on Sunday because they're doing a major update. So just if if tomorrow evening you've got nothing better to do, so you decide you're going to do some UCAS research rather than watch Strictly, then just be aware that a lot of the searches won't be happening. Okay. First thing that I find is people come to me and say, oh, I want to do X, or they get turned down simply because they haven't, one of the entry requirements is certain GCSE grades. So it's very, very important that you check that actually your GCSE grades, certain criterion, actually meet what a university wants. We are talking about predicted grades, but there is this thing that sometimes they want a particular grade, maybe in English. Maybe they want a particular grade in maths at GCSE. So check that you've actually got the right GCSE grades as those entry requirements. Okay, so this is the path we've been on. And I've put in the arrow as to where we've got to. For those people who are doing early entry, Friday of next week is by which time you have to have finished your application form so that we can actually get everything off and sorted by the 16th of October. For those of you the rest of you, we have a school deadline of the 3rd of January. I'll give you a reason for that in a minute. Therefore, giving the equal consideration deadline of the 31st of January. Okay, that is not the last day by which you can apply to university. The deadline actually for applying to university is the 21st of September 2024. But what that deadline means is if you submit your application by the 31st of January, a university has to consider your application. After that deadline, they can turn around and say, no, we're not interested in you for that particular subject, and just reject you almost instantly. So it's vital that if you want you to be considered, it's considered by that date. The other thing I want to mention, I'll mention it here, is actually the sooner you get your application in, the sooner they will make you offers. The universities do something called pooling. Pooling means they wait till they've got, let's say, 50 applications for a particular course. They look at the predicted grades and they say, right, okay, we will take that top group and we will make them an offer and we'll just put the rest back in the pool. Okay, what that means is that they will make offers and continue to make offers basically until they are full, although they still have the January. So they'll leave a few spaces for January, but they know that the best students will get their applications in early. Okay, so if what we're saying to you is let us get the early entry people done, and then certainly, but after half term, we need to see that rush of applications. Get it done, get it out of the way. Don't leave it till after Christmas, is what we're saying. Okay, so that's the timeline. Basically, if you like it in that way. And we have the end of June is what this has come from UCAS. Okay, that is the last day in which you can actually put in 5 applications, because thereafter clearing opens and you can only do them one at a time. So, these are the deadlines as they work. Okay, as it says, you have been warned. Now, let me just explain the rationale for the deadline. Okay, this is the school deadline. If you do not submit your application by the 3rd of January, we do not guarantee to be able to process it by the date at the end of January. Okay? Why is that? And that is, number one, your tutors have to process it, and we do what's called, there's bound to be things called bounce back. There's an error in your personal statement. It needs to be returned to you. You've got to sort it and you've got to send it back to us. Why? Because there are on average, although last year we did so much more, I reckon from this cohort, usual sort of size, there'll be about 180 applications. Okay? I read every single one of them. I check every single one of them, and that takes me about 20 minutes. Work it out, and I only now work 16 hours a week. Although during that period I probably will clock up a few more hours. Okay? Which means, on average, probably I'm doing 5 or 6 a day. By the time I've actually looked at university, I get square eyes. Okay? You want it read, I would do a thorough job, but it takes me a while to do it. That's why we need nearly a month to get through all of the applications. I'm hoping that by the time we get to January, probably 50% will be done. But that's just to explain our rationale. Now, if you need to do a test, the UCAT people have probably done their tests, but if you need to do any of the other tests, you should have seen Mrs. Kane by yesterday. Okay? If you haven't, I have had a nice chat with her. You have until 12 o'clock today to see her with your UCAS number so that you can actually make that application for a test. Can I say, yes, the deadline by the people who are doing the tests is Thursday of next week, but there are certain processes she has to go through to, again, administer and work out those tests and work out various bits and pieces. So if you don't go crying on Monday morning and say, oh, I didn't know, or I forgot, or whatever, okay, if necessary, what I would say to you is when we finished here, and you know you need to do a test, and you haven't applied for it, go and see her this morning. She will talk to you up to 12 o'clock today. Okay? If you have booked a test already, but you need special arrangements like a large paper, somebody to read it, okay, some IT, again, you have to see her by 12 o'clock today to make so that those arrangements can be put in place, because she has to tell the testing people on Monday. Okay, so let's talk about your choices. A number of you have been to see me. We've had discussions. Basically, we are looking at, you have your predicted grades. Most of your teachers will tell you what the predicted grades are. I generally say that you should be putting in two universities that are aspirational. Now, let me take an example. What do I mean by aspirational? If your predictions are 3 Bs, then possibly a university that wants an A and 2 Bs might be 2 A's and a B, but certainly no more than that, because we know, well, you are probably not going to get it. Okay? You need to then put, as I put it, 1 or 2 on the money. In other words, 1 or 2 universities where what they are asking for is, as I've used the example of the 3 Bs, some 3 Bs, and possibly 1 or 2 slightly below, which might be a BBC or something like that. Okay? We do not cross-check your predictions with the courses you have applied for. When you put that course onto the UCAS form, we cannot see what the grades are. We don't sort of say, oh yes, you want to go to Cardiff to study archaeology. We then look up Cardiff and archaeology and look what the grades are and see if they... No, that's your job. We don't do that cross-check. So that's advice. If you want to put in something that is even more aspirational, fine, but be aware that that's our advice to you, okay? And if you want to see some of the graphs and stuff like that, book an appointment and come and see me. Okay, let's talk about common mistakes. I've already started checking those that have come in. Some of you can't use capitals for your name, okay? So, some people have put capitals all the way through. But a large number of you haven't been using capitals, for your first name and your surname. Okay? Some of you already have got the funding wrong. Okay? The funding is what we call O2, which is UK, etc., in the EU student finance. You may turn around and say, yes, but we're going to pay the fees. Mum or Dad have said they'll pay the £9,250. Yes, but if you that's not private funding, because if you don't put that down, you'll owe the full £36,500. Okay? What you're actually saying is you live in an area where the local authority are going to pay the rest of that money. Okay? Whether or not you take out any form of student loans or not. Okay, so you need to put in O2. You need to put in what's called nominated access. That's normally mum or dad, so that on results day, or confirmation day as it's now called, if for any reason you are not in a position to talk to somebody at UCAS, talk to a university, that nominated access person can ring on your behalf. Okay? Other than that, UCAS will not talk to anybody else. If there's nobody there, they won't talk to them. The other one is email addresses. Now, I know some of you have used your @maidenleyschools.co.uk email address to access UCAS. But what you must make sure you put in is that you use a personal email address in the form itself, because that is how UCAS tried to contact you. And can I say, had we not had a little IT crisis in school, last year's year 13 would have had all of those maidenleyschools.co.uk email addresses turned off in July. Okay, so make sure in the form, which is the address that is used by UCAS, it's a personal one and not a school one. Okay, so some of you need to change that. Okay, work experience shouldn't be in your personal statement, should not be a list of I did this, I did that, I did that. Remember the personal statement stuff? Okay, you need to put in what you've learnt from it, and they are expecting something that you are talking about, some kind of work experience or or a job you do or something like that. It's expected to be in there. Okay, league tables and student room. Okay, can I suggest, if you have joined Student Room, which is a online forum, if you haven't discovered it, don't bother. But if you have, can I say there are people put some most interesting things in Student Room. Can I say, about 2 years ago, I had a couple of those who were applying for medicine who came to me, one of whom was in tears because they'd read on Student Room that one of the universities had now made all the offers they were going to make. It was somebody just trying to wind everybody up. Okay, so take it a little bit with a pinch of salt. There will be, I think it's the Sunday Times will be producing their league tables of various universities. Some of them are okay. Most of them take with a little bit of a pinch of salt. You know, they rate universities by the student union. Well, I think that's based on beer prices. You know, it might be that you're not, you know, but look at what they're saying. By all means, look at them. But I don't take a great deal of sway by league tables. You know, job prospects of doing this course at this university. That's 3 years away. As all of us know, you know, what was it, 2 years ago? The whole world changed, and it could change again by different reasons. So just take all I say to you is, by all means, if you want to look at the league tables, do so. I have a quick flick through, one or two, but normally don't spend a lot of sway by them. Okay. That's a standard slide, but I would say if you are looking at universities and looking at applications and you're thinking, just check whether or not they will take resits. If you're thinking that maybe I'm not going to apply this year and I'll see how I do, and etc., just check that one. Open days. As you will know, I put a link to somebody who actually puts together all the open day information. I did post on Google Classroom the September ones. There are still some available in October. What I would say is, if you want to go on an open day, try to go to a weekend. But if you can't, I think a whole load of people are at Loughborough today, I think it is. And, you know, send me an email with your copy of your invite or the fact you're going, and I will do the whole attendance thing on your behalf. It just makes it so much easier. So, just to remind you of there's where we go through. So you're going to register, you're going to complete your application, you submit it to the school, and we check it, add the reference, okay, and we send it to UCAS. Some people get confused that when we say pay and send only sends it to us. It doesn't go off to UCAS as such, although it's on their system. You have a thing called Track. Once we have sent it, you will get an email, and you can then go into Track and you can view what's going on. Obviously, you might have interviews, you might have some tests. You'll then get some offers. You accept your offers, you get your results, and off you go to university. And as some of you will have seen, I think this weekend is the weekend that Reading is going to be full of large numbers of 18-year-olds all arriving at Reading University. Okay, just to remind you about all the sections to be completed, I'll post this for you. Okay, but there are one or two bits and pieces. The more about you is very important. The section where it's got all about if you've got any health things or any disabilities or things like that, make sure those get filled in, and make sure actually if you do that you talk to your tutor about it in advance with the supporting information. Okay. What do? Well, we actually check your application and your examination results. Okay, make sure the other one while I'm talking about that is you get the science right. If you've done single sciences, then it's physics, chemistry, biology. If you've done the sort of dual award science, then make sure you pick the one that gives you the right grades and allows you to put 2 grades in. We will do what's called bounce back. In other words, we send your application back to you if there's an error. Okay, you resubmit it. You don't have to pay again, by the way. I had somebody a couple of years ago who was really, really worried about the fact that were they going to have to pay 3 or 4 times? No, reassure your parents. It's only one payment from their credit card. Okay, the subject teachers, by the end of today, will have written as references. Your tutor will then be putting the application, and I'm the one who actually hits the go button, or Miss Cheshire, although it's me, she's the backup. So that's what actually happens. If you are thinking about a deferred entry, in other words, you're going to apply now, but you're not going to go until 2025, you must check with the university that they will accept a deferred entry. Some will not. Some will say, well, you've got to apply, pull out of the application for this year and reapply, because they only want you to apply with results in the end. Okay. Now, UCAS will obviously check your application and your personal statement for plagiarism. Okay, every single personal statement is checked for plagiarism. Okay, across all of them, and across they look at school groups, they look at areas, they know all of the ones that are out there on the internet. Okay, they then send the application to universities. Now, let me say to you, I've already had a parent on the phone saying to me about the order in which you put your universities down. Yes, about 30 odd years ago, it used to matter which order you put the universities down. What happens now is, because it's electronic, completely electronic, when your form is sent to the universities by UCAS, the universities do not know which other universities you have applied to. Okay? Probably when your parents filled in a paper form, okay, they had to put them in a particular order because some universities didn't like it if other universities were put before them in your order. Okay, doesn't happen. Okay, so if your parents say, oh, we've got to get them in the right order, tell them what happens, because it doesn't matter anymore. Okay, the universities will feedback your offers. Can I say, a few years ago, when I was actually a tutor, I had a student in my tutor group who I hit send at about 10 to 9, and by the end of tutor period at 25 past 9, they got 5 offers. Some universities respond that fast to students who get their applications in early. Okay, and what happens is that all the results go through in the background, and you get your go. Right. You need to check what it is that the universities are considering. Make sure they all have to declare how they consider students. Most of them start with predicted grades. They then look at your GCSEs. Then they look at the school reference. There is now a particular different sections in the reference. They'll look at your personal statement. It may be that they're looking at the tests, and before you get anywhere for interview, they look at your test scores. Okay. Personal statements. Okay, there was somebody was yesterday, who was wandering around with 5 copies of their personal statement to hand to staff. Okay, if you do that, you will end up with a personal statement that I describe as Heinz 57 varieties. Okay, because every member of staff will be very diligent in writing on your personal statement for you, and you'll be going, you won't know which one to go with which. What I say to you is, give it to one member of staff to look at. Preferably somebody who A, teaches you, and B, is close to the course you are going to do. So, for example, if you want to do engineering, then obviously you give it to a physics or a maths teacher. Okay? I will look at them, yes, by all means, but normally my first question to you is, has somebody else looked at it already? Has one of your subject teachers had a look at it already? If the answer is no, I will normally send you away. Okay? I like a hard copy that I can write on. Okay? I'm quite happy. There is a reasonable gap under my door, so I'm quite happy for you to shove them under the door. But can you put on there not your name? Believe it or not, I already had a personal statement under my door when I got in this morning. Had no name on it. I have no idea. Whoever it was, better come and see me at some point. Okay? And preferably, put your email address on it, so that actually I can then get back to you and say, I've looked at it, come and collect it. Okay? So get your application done as soon as possible. We've mentioned that. As I said, those 2 will be right. Now, I know a lot of you don't do Facebook. I know Facebook is what your parents probably do, but can I say UCAS and universities still use Facebook for giving you information? Okay, it is worth following Facebook, UCAS on Twitter and Facebook. There is a lot of information that they push out. Okay, there are videos. There's all sorts of stuff about how to do your personal statement. There's all sorts of interaction. So you might not do Facebook and Twitter. Okay, just do it for 6 months so that actually you can actually get this information because of the UCAS groups. Right, to help you even more, on Friday the 6th of October, we have the Maiden Early Trust Higher Education Fair. Okay? There will be universities, colleges, training providers, gap year providers, and some general careers advice. Okay? Currently, these are the universities who have confirmed that they are coming. This is only slide 1. Okay? I'll post this on Google Classroom in a minute. So all of these universities will be here with admissions tutors, and you can talk to them. It will happen, I'm not quite sure what time during the day, but it will be happening that you can actually go and talk to those unis. So, finally, personal statements. Okay? Some people have said to me, I've done my personal statement on Unifrog. Can I now move it across to... No, you have to cut and paste all the bits if you've done it on Unifrog. So do your personal statement, some probably on Word, and then put it onto the UCAS system. Just to remind you, I do not work every day, but one day I'm in all day is Tuesday. So I'm either doing Thursday morning or Friday morning or possibly Tuesday and Thursday. Okay? In a minute, you are going to go to your PD sessions. Okay, to work on your application, your personal statement, you can look up apprenticeships. The early entry people can stay after the presentation. Now, there is a very important number that I have written down there. As you are probably aware, there is no Wi-Fi access for you. However, I have talked to the IT providers, and there is, if you use the guest Wi-Fi, and the number 192290, that will give you Wi-Fi access in school. Okay, so what you need to do is, I did put on Google Classroom for you to bring a personal device so that you can do some work. For the next few PD sessions, you are going to be working on your futures application. So it might be your personal statement, it might be your UCAS application, it might be looking up apprenticeships, it might be maybe looking at universities and starting to think about how, remember when we talked about, where is the accommodation for a particular university? Is that going to affect my decisions? Okay, so the number is 192290. I will put that on Google Classroom in a few minutes. Okay, but that will then give you guest Wi-Fi access for the foreseeable future to year 13. And with that, I am finished.